Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. Rolling along in earnings season. This week was definitely unusual for many reasons, and I don't know what this coming week will have in store for us, other than I'm pretty confident there's going to be a lot going on, right? So not only are we still smack in the middle of earnings season, but we have the election on Tuesday, and I am expecting things to be flying all over the place. I don't know how how earnings are going to be treated before the election, but I think after the election, once we have maybe some more clarity on the next president, I think maybe things will really start to open up from like an earnings trade point of view. So, just have to wait and see. All right. So starting things off on Monday, Clorox about 12 points is what's priced in it. And what you'll notice is that I think like the week starts off slow because a lot of companies are waiting until after Tuesday to report. So it's like slow Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday gets real packed. So Clorox, like I said, 12 points. This was a great play earlier into the pandemic. People stocking up, cleaning supplies, etc. But it really hasn't had much momentum recently. I imagine the core is pretty solid, but these types of names really haven't been in play much the past couple months. So I'm not sure I really want to focus on it right now. Lumber liquidators. So about 375 is what's priced in here. We've actually traded this recently a couple times, and it's really been moving around quite a bit. Last quarter actually moved enough to pay the straddle, so that was here. Option pricing this time is higher though, and I do think it can move, but like 375, that seems kind of high. So I think overall a bit tougher setup, so I might leave it alone this time around. After the close on Monday, PayPal, so big name, about 16 and a half points is what's priced in here. They've really crushed it a few quarters in a row, and it seems set up well for another solid print. Stock obviously off the high. I mean, a lot of things are off their high, and it's still within its trend. I don't know what the reaction is going to be this time around. I mean, I think that's the main issue with stuff before the election is that like I just don't know how earnings are going to be treated. But I do think like if the numbers are good and it holds the uptrend, that like a couple weeks, maybe a couple months from now, it's higher. But it's just I feel like Monday and Tuesday could be real unpredictable as people kind of wait around for the outcome of the election. Skyworks. So about 12 points is what's priced in on this. At one point a couple years ago, it was a pretty consistent big mover on earnings, but I mean, it really hasn't been that way in recent quarters. Option pricing seems high based off what it has typically moved on reports lately. Most of the other Apple suppliers report next week, minus Broadcom, AVGO. So if I was going to look at something, maybe I look at AVGO options as like a sympathy play candidate. Before the open on Tuesday, so really only one name, Wayfair. About 36 points is what's priced in. It got crushed on a strong report from Overstock. So Overstock, really great numbers. That stock got hit. Wayfair got hit along with it. So I'm really not sure what to make of it on its own earnings report. I'm expecting good numbers. I mean, they demolished estimates last quarter. Overstock was fantastic. But how strong do the results have to be for this to not get sold off? Like other e-commerce names, like a big question mark. And at like 36 points, I mean, I just feel like there's too many question marks for me to get involved right now. After the bell on Tuesday, really nothing of interest. Wednesday before the open, one name, Scott's Miracle-Gro. Even then, I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be a big mover because they already guided. They are still pricing in 16 points, but those are monthly options. They guided preliminary numbers back at the beginning of September. Outside of that, though, I mean, it has been one of the best plays, maybe the best play in the cannabis space, and it looks pretty solid up here. My rule, as you know, typically to avoid companies or stocks that guide early, so I feel like I'll probably avoid this one too. But they have delivered very consistently for a while now, and the chart to me does seem set up for higher prices. Okay, after the close on Wednesday, get into some of like the tech names. Expedia pricing in about 11 points. Just had another false breakout above 100, rolled right back down. Anything travel related, still in the doghouse for me at least, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. High option pricing, lack of visibility. Just I feel like it's hard to play this one. I just don't have a feel for it. Match. So about 14 points. That's what's priced in on match. Um, Definitely have been some great moves in the social media plays this quarter, and match I feel like could be another one. It's just off its 52-week high, coming off a strong quarter in August. Looks set up well for higher prices, so that might be something to look at for like a speculative bullish play. MELI, Mercado Libre, option pricing about 125, but the spreads are real wide on the options in this, which is also one of the hard things about MELI. It's like the stock is kind of thinly traded, the options are pretty thinly traded, and I mean, I don't know what to do with like the pricey e-commerce names for earnings this quarter, because Etsy sold off, eBay sold off, Amazon sold off, right? I mean, they all had good numbers, they all sold off. Melee options are expensive, options are thinly traded, so just overall like a tough setup. But maybe if things like look okay after the report and the option pricing comes down, then we'll take a look. All right, Corvo. So, excuse me, about 15 and a half points. That's what's priced in. The monthly options, though. So Skyworks reports the day before. Definitely going to set the tone for this. Those two tend to be pretty correlated. But even then, I don't know if I'd be expecting a huge move for Corvo because they already guided numbers in September. I feel like it is solid and it could get momentum going, but it's going to need to get above 140 to really start to take off. But it's definitely a name I think has maybe more long-term potential than like short-term potential. Qualcomm, about 8.5 points was expected on this big semi report. Had a strong quarter in July, but it actually moved more because of a court patent ruling. Stock has been great though since then. Definitely one of the stronger names in the sector overall. I think I really think that the overall market sentiment is going to play a big role depending on how this is treated. Like if on Wednesday, if the market's up a lot after the election results, or if it's down a lot, I mean, it's really going to impact like a name like Qualcomm, which I feel like kind of really all depends on sentiment for the most part. So this is definitely going to be kind of a game time decision for me. For the open on Thursday. So again, second week in a row, Thursday is going to be a huge day. Baba, huge name. 25 points is what's expected. Stock has been on a tear and it's just off its all-time high. It didn't do much last quarter though, and when I reported the quarter before that, it actually got hit on good results. So definitely not much consistency around earnings, and that's not a great sign just for like an options play, right? Because you really want to see stocks move big. You want to see them consistently move. So the lack of that for Baba is kind of like, makes me more cautious on it. I have traded this a lot over the last few months though, and I am interested in it if it like pulls in and holds trend support and option pricing comes down too. So I don't think I'm going to do anything necessarily with for earnings, but I'm definitely will be looking at it after earnings. JD could be a sympathy trade candidate for this one. Kronos, so about 85 cents is what's priced in. I have been trading the cannabis stocks a lot. I wish I hadn't because I haven't had a lot of success with them. Afria was the first to report and it wasn't very good. Kronos is going to be the second name to report, so they get a chance to turn around. Option pricing, it doesn't seem bad. Like I feel like there could potentially be a big move higher. I think like the risk reward skewed to the upside. But the problem is like the numbers have really stunk for the most part. So, more upside potential, but maybe higher likelihood of a not great report. So, it's kind of a maybe like wait and see setup for me. Regen, so about maybe like 38 to 40 points. What's the price on this? It's been a lot. It's been in the news a lot lately for like COVID headlines, but there really hasn't been too many like great tradable opportunities on it. I'm not sure earnings are gonna be that big of a catalyst. Stock really hasn't been doing a whole lot. for as much as it's been in the news. And I don't know. I feel like I struggle to lay out all that premium on options because it hasn't really moved a whole lot on earnings in the past. So maybe if they have a development on their COVID drug, but otherwise, probably just end up watching this. YETI. So kind of like an under the radar name. Um, I feel like it's kind of just hanging out right. It's 52-week high. Pretty nice consolidation. Looks pretty bullish to me. The price is in 575, and I think like technically it looks good. Option pricing a little bit less so because that's kind of high based off what it's moved in the past. Um, it's it does appear to have potential though, right? Because there is some short interest, and if it can get through 55, could have a pent up breakout. But at the same time, I mean, there have been quarters where it's gotten hit off good numbers. So, I mean, if I can get the overall premium down, I might look at a volatility strategy because I do think that there could be maybe like a 5-ish type point move, maybe even more either direction. But obviously, options are priced in a bigger move. So, anything I do, I have to revolve around getting the overall premium or risk down. All right. After the bell on Thursday is a big software night. AYX, 19 and a half points was priced in. I mean, they just guided earlier in the month, so you know my rule there. Actually, those are monthly options too, so they already guided. So I mean, I don't think I'd put on a trade specifically for earnings. Big C. So I know a lot of people focus on this new IPO, been called the mini shop. The price in at 15 points. Those are monthly options. I mean, Shop crushed it. Stock got hit. So, I don't know how that bodes for Big C because the stock really doesn't look very good. And if Shopify absolutely demolished estimates and the stock didn't do well, I don't know how Big C is going to do. So I feel like I would just prefer to stick with Shopify, focus on that. Maybe if Big C can get back towards 100, I'll take a look at it. Cloudflare. So 6 points. What's priced in on this? This is interesting to me after the Fastly disaster. Limelight got whacked. Akamai had a huge drop on earnings. So this is like the last man standing, and they're probably going to have to deliver a very strong quarter to have like a different fate. Option pricing, it's not cheap at 6 points, but I do think based off of what Fastly did, what Limelight did, what Akamai did, that there could be a pretty big move on this one either way. So I might actually look at a volatility strategy. EA, so about 8.5 points. What's priced in here? Take Two, about 13.5 points. It's priced in that. Activision. So the reason I lump them together is because Activision had a decent report but dropped. EA, Take Two, very similar patterns. I mean, maybe they rebound next week if earnings are good and the overall market acts well, but they're just not going to be a focus of mine. Action on them as a group just really has really not been great last couple of months. Been choppy, lackluster, so I think I'm probably going to avoid. Groupon. So this is actually one of the more interesting setups next week. The price in 375, and this was a huge winner last quarter and a huge winner after. And you can see that's rolled over and it's just been consolidating. And at 375, I mean, there just seems to be a really obvious significant gap below. It's way off its high. I mean, it crushed it last quarter. So, I mean, I feel like it sets up very well for a volatility strategy. So, I think that's one I'm going to be looking at like later in the week. Peloton, big name. 15 points, what's priced in. I mean, you can see the aggressive rally finally broke, but I mean, we still have to wonder how high expectations are because I'm sure everyone is expecting a strong quarter. And if they just beat, it's hard to figure out how much upside there is because it's not as heavily shorted as it once was, and a lot of momentum names have broken over the past couple weeks. At 15 points, option pricing is high too, so I mean, it's really going to need to move to pay option players, and I just don't know if I have enough conviction with it to lay out that type of money. Roku. So actually, kind of a similar pattern to Peloton when I do them back to back like this. 26 points. What's priced in on this? Has a history of responding pretty poorly to earnings. and the stock has had a massive run recently. So that is not a good combination. So I'm definitely more cautious on it. But if it's surprisingly good, or for opposite side of it, if it's surprisingly bad, I'd expect a real big move. So I may throw on something speculative further on the money just in case you get like a 30, 40 type dollar move on it. Square, another big name. Let's pull it up. So pricing in about 17 and a half points. Wait for my charts to load. So they're pricing in about 17 and a half points on Square. Let's see. Come on. Let me reload. So 17 and a half points on Square. Now, I think what you'll see with Square when it comes back up, there we go. If I can load. So what you can see with Square when it loads here is that today's session definitely did a little damage from like a trend perspective because it broke the 50-day. Now, they did have a very strong report last quarter, and it's been a top name for a while. So I'd be expecting decent results. I mean, they're going to have to probably be very good, though, and it's going to have to repair this trend. Otherwise, it could start to really lose momentum. I feel like from a longer term perspective, it's interesting, especially if the numbers are good and it can repair the trend. But I think with like the option pricing being elevated and the kind of like the tenuous near term chart, I might just hold off on earnings and see what they say, see what the stock does, and maybe look out for like a long term swing after. Trade desk. So about 70 points is what's priced in here. Definitely one of the best software names for a stretch. For a lot of October. But it definitely has lost momentum. I mean, not surprising. A lot of other names have. It's not usually a volatile name around earnings, and the average move on the quarterly reports has really been smaller over the last year or so. So with options pricing in 70, that seems very, very high to me, very high. So I don't think I'm gonna do anything with it. But after earnings, different story. Especially if the stock sets up well, option pricing comes down. It could be a nice one for like a quick trade opportunity. Uber. So 4 points is what's priced in next week. I actually have two catalysts. You have the California prop vote on drivers classified as employees. So that's one, but then also earnings later in the week. What's interesting is that Lyft doesn't report earnings next week, so you could get like a pretty nice sympathy trade out of Lyft because you get the prop vote and you also get Uber earnings, and they don't have earnings until the following week, so option pricing will be like overall lower. So that's what I'm thinking. Lyft. And then Zillow wrapping up Thursday night. About 11 and a half points is what's priced in here. This was a favorite of mine going into last quarter when they crushed it, and then we rode it for a while after that. But the action has really turned negative basically the entire month of October, and it's just has not had a major bounce in really a month. So I think I'm just going to wait and see what they say, see what the stock does. I mean, I do think the report should be pretty solid, but I mean, it's just kind of like stuck in like a steady downtrend. So I think it's kind of a tougher setup this time around. So I think I'm just going to wait, see what they say, see what the stock does, then maybe go with it after that. All right, and then wrapping things up Friday morning, and really only one name, CVS. 3.5 points is what's priced in. So this, Walgreens, Rite Aid, I mean, they really have just been lagging substantially for a while now. CVS is below all support. It seems to be on a path back towards March low. Last quarter was decent. Stock didn't that good though. In this environment, it's kind of hard to really envision it being up a ton. If everything kind of gets like sold, if the numbers are like only so, it seems like they get sold. Um, so I don't like the setup, but maybe depending on how outcome of the election is, see how Wednesday goes, see how Thursday goes. Maybe if the overall action across the market improves, maybe I'll look at a trade. But otherwise, I think I might just end up leaving that one alone. That's it. So you can see, I mean, we have a busy week on our hands. for numerous reasons. There's going to be a lot going on, a lot of names in the news, a lot of news around the election. So just I think you should just buckle up because volatility could be here to stay for a little while. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on earnings trading with options or options swing trading or hedging with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options in play. I hope you have a wonderful night. Stay well, and I will talk to you all on Monday.